2023. Good evening. Glad to see so many faces this evening. So at this time, I would like to ask Commissioner Haupt to give the invocation for the Board of the Commissioners as we seek guidance and wisdom in the work that we're about to do for the citizens of Iredell County.
Bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all of your many blessings you bestowed upon us in this country. We live in the best country in the world, the best state in the country, and the best county in the state. Please give us wisdom and knowledge in all decisions we make on behalf of our citizens. Please continue to bless our county, our state, and our country, Lord, and may we please you in all that we do. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Please stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Didn't do that kiss we keep.
All right, Manager Mull, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. We have one addition, which is item 8.5 under Administrative Matters, and that's a request from the Fire Tax Oversight Committee.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the adjusted agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the adjusted amendment.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Now let's proceed down the agenda, and we have no presentations or recognitions of awards this evening. We don't have any appointments before the board. We do have a public hearing with Iredell County Economic Development Corporation, and I believe we had Chad Thomas this evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chair Nieder and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to present this economic incentive request. I'm Chad Thomas, Vice President of Iredell County Economic Development Corporation. With me in attendance is Jim Bozer, President and CEO of Iredell EDC, Lori Ruman, a company representative, and Sydney August, a consultant on the project. Iredell EDC is pleased to present Dura Supreme LLC, also known as Project South, for consideration for an economic development incentive grant from Iredell County. Dura Supreme LLC is wholly owned by Supreme Cabinetry Brand Inc. and backed by GHK Capital. The company was founded in 1954 by Don Stotz in his Minnesota garage after serving his country as a Navy Seabee, and now has approximately 1,200 employees with multiple locations in Minnesota and Iowa. The project entails the expansion of Dura Supreme's semi-custom and custom cabinetry manufacturing capacity at a location in Statesville, North Carolina. In accordance with the Iredell County Economic Development Policy, Iredell EDC requests an economic incentive grant to Dura Supreme LLC for up to $197,445 based on a capital investment total of $17,400,000 and the minimum creation of 115 jobs up to 237 jobs. The grant is performance-based and would be payable over 5 years at 75% of new real property and 50% tangible personal property taxed or assessed tax value. Payment is tied to the assessed value of new tax increment generated from the private investment by the company. The Statesville City Council considered and approved an economic development incentive grant on Monday, February 20th, 2023. On behalf of Iredell EDC, I want to again thank the board for your consideration of this grant and would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Chad. Do we have any questions from the board? All right, then I'm going to open the public hearing to consider this economic development incentive for Project South. Have no one has signed up. Is there anyone who would like to be heard on the economic development incentive? Seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion for this.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion we approve an economic incentive of up to $197,445 over a 5-year period based on the company's investment of up to $17.4 million creation of up to 237 jobs, and contingent upon a contract being executed within 180 days.
Thank you, Commissioner Haupt. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Chad. We appreciate the work of the EDC. All right, moving along to administrative matters. And I'd like to note that during our 5 o'clock hour, we have directors and departments and staff of the county that will come and share information with us in order to make decisions and conversation. That takes place. It's also live streamed as well for the 5 o'clock, during that 5 o'clock hour. So at this point, though, I would like to ask Manager Mull if you would summarize those discussions and move down through the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item is a request from Solid Waste for approval to purchase 5 vacant lots on Twin Oaks Road from LandQuest LLC for $80,000. There was a request from the Finance Department for approval of an amended contract for Martin Starnes and Associates CPA to complete the annual audit for fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. There was a request from Tax Administration for approval of the January 2023 refunds and releases, a request from the Clerk for the Board for approval of the minutes from the meeting on February the 7th, 2023, and finally, a request from the Fire Tax Oversight Committee for approval of Budget Amendment Number 37 and to use $56,587.17 from the Countywide Fire Service District undesignated fund balance to pay for the replacement of a motor in the South Iredell Volunteer Fire Department fire engine. This was, after discussion of this, the board agreed by consensus that this fund balance would only be used for emergency purposes only, and this certainly does qualify for that. Those were all the items reviewed under the consent agenda.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, takes care of our consent agenda. Thank you. All right, moving on down, we have no announcements of vacancies occurring on any boards or commissions this evening. However, if you'll look at item number 10, there is an appointments to the boards and commissions, which is farmland preservation. Manager Mull, did you have anything you need to share with us on that one?
There was a vacancy on this board. There was a member that passed away last year, so we do have an individual that has volunteered to serve for the first time, and that's Mr. James Steele.
All right, with that being said, I would like to have a motion to appoint James Steele. I have that motion.
So moved.
All right, all in favor of James Steele to the Farmland Preservation Advisory Board?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries unanimously. All right, let's move on down for some unfinished business. All right, I believe we have Attorney Valdez. You have some updates for us?
Yes, I was asked to give the board updates on 2 matters.
Please.
First, regarding the resolution for life that was discussed at the board's retreat on Friday. I have made some updates and revisions based on the board's comments and should have that circulated to you in order to consider a review for further comment or adoption in March at your next available meeting. Also, I was asked to give an update regarding the short-term rental issue. I sent you all some information previously, but for the public's information, about the only option that you all have as a local government at this point to address the issue is through zoning. And addressing it through zoning isn't ideal. It is from a land use standpoint. You will need to define what that use is. You'll need to define the district that it should be allowed in. You should define what the parameters are to have that use. The problem is that enforcement from a zoning standpoint, that's the part that's not ideal, because enforcement through zoning is not something that happens quickly. It's not something that is easy to do, particularly with this type of use that's being proposed, because it's a violation citation process that's involved. But unless state statutes are changed that would provide you other opportunities as far as a registry and other ways to document the use and what's happening and to have other enforcement opportunities, about the only thing you can do at this point is an amendment to the zoning ordinance or to the land use development code to address it as a use. And so that's something that will require some more guidance from the board for staff to draft such an amendment. And that would be something that would come back to you all to adopt as a text amendment if you so choose to go that route.
I want to say thank you for the information being provided to us from citizens that live in that area and are having to experience that. And we've distributed that to the board, and I think Amy has additional information. She just needs to know if you need it electronically or hard copy. And as you keep looking at these options that our neighbors and other counties and municipalities are doing to deal with that, hopefully we can come up with a resolution and then maybe get some help from our legislative people in Raleigh to help deal with that issue.
Thank you. And then we also had some discussion during our 5 o'clock hour under unfinished business. Manager Mull, you have recently sent out, as of today, a very helpful email that explains revaluation from a state level requirement. Would you care to elaborate on that as well, please?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. I know that the commissioners have received a lot of comments and questions from citizens. I have as well. So what I took the liberty of doing is preparing kind of a 2-page information sheet regarding reappraisal in hopes that we could help share some information to our citizens regarding the reappraisal process, specifically that this is not a process that is solely conducted in Iredell County. It is a process that is highly governed by the Department of Revenue. It is a requirement by the North Carolina Department of Revenue, and the law actually stipulates that we must do a reappraisal every 8 years. The recommendation is that it's done every 4 years, which of course is the cycle that Iredell County is on. Every year in May, the Department of Revenue will notify counties if their tax value drops below a 90% threshold or goes above 110% threshold. So the Department of Revenue will go and they will look at the median sales in your county. And if your tax value drops below or outside of that range, you receive a letter from the Department of Revenue letting you know that you are outside of that range and some corrective action needs to occur. That letter does not stipulate that anything was done incorrectly by our tax office. What it says, and we've received 2 of those letters, what it says is that your values are growing to the point where you need to consider doing a reappraisal. The first letter that we received was in May of 2021, and that letter said that our values that are on the books as of January 1 of 2019, which was our previous reappraisal, had dropped to 87%. Again, the range should not go below 90 and should not go above 110%. So the letter we got in May of 2021 said that we were at 87%. And it's actually 87.72% is what the letter said. And said that we need to consider doing a reappraisal soon. We already had one on the books to do in 2023. So the next year, May of 2022, we received another letter from the Department of Revenue telling us that our values had now dropped to 71.46%. So basically what that's saying is that the value of property has increased, and now what's on our books, what our assessed value is 71% of what fair market value is in our county based on the sales ratios. So again, that letter said you need to do a reappraisal soon. Again, we had one scheduled for 2023, which is what we're doing and what is now in place. So for those, we've received a lot of comments about delaying the reappraisal. Delaying the reappraisal was not really an option for us because we had already dropped below that threshold.
And that letter came from?
It came from the North Carolina Department of Revenue.
Oh.
So, and this is something that they go and track, and we're notified on an annual basis, and we have received 2 letters, one in 2021 saying that we were at 87.72%. We got another letter in May of 22 saying that we were at 71.46%. So when you do a reappraisal, the goal is to be 100% of fair market value. Okay, so as close to, sometimes we do, 95 to 100, but we want to be in that range because those values are set, and those values are set for a 4-year period of time. So hopefully those values don't fluctuate to the point where you drop below the 90% or you go above the 110%. So that's the goal of the reappraisal. To put into perspective the growth that our county has experienced, I went back and looked at the growth between April 1st of 2020 through July 1st of 2022, just that snapshot of time. The state of North Carolina grew 1.1%. The national growth was 0.1%. So North Carolina is growing so much faster than the state. But Iredell County grew 2.8%.
Double.
2.8%. So when your county grows to that magnitude, you've got a lot of factors that are coming into play there with that growth. So as our population has grown, our real estate values have grown as well. The value of that property has grown. I did include a chart in that letter to kind of show what the sales have done as far as just residential homes in Iredell County and the values of those residential homes. And I looked at it from the first quarter of 2019 through the fourth quarter of 2022, and the increase in those values, 60% increase over that period of time. And this comes directly from the MLS as far as sales. The information that I've included in this letter, and it is something that can be sent out, it has active links to it. What we did, we created a reappraisal brochure that has some really good information in it to talk about what is fair market value, what is the reappraisal, how are these values established, things of that nature. It has a link to that brochure in it. Also, we created and put on our website a calculator to help people calculate what those taxes could mean based on the value. In that calculator, the tax rate has not been established yet. So what we put in that calculator is what the current tax rate is. So the current tax rate is 53.75 cents per 100. So it's per $100 of valuation. Bear in mind that Iredell County, out of 100 counties in the state of North Carolina, there are only 17 counties that have a lower tax rate than Iredell County. We are the 14th largest county in the state, but we have the 18th lowest rate in the state. That's something to be proud of, but it is a double-edged sword because when you're a large county, the people in the county would like to have the same services that those larger counties provide. However, we have one of the lowest tax rates. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But I have that tax calculator link in this memo as well. So as we kind of go through and talk about reappraisal, I know that some people have been shocked with the values, and they've communicated that to everyone. There is an appeal process, and I've listed in here the appeal process and actually a link to the appeal form as well. I do want to note and say that when you file an appeal, please don't file your appeal and say my value's too high. Provide some additional information. The first thing they're going to do when you call the tax office, they're going to pull up your property tax card, your property card, and they're going to go through that information in there to make sure it's accurate. They're going to make sure they have the correct square footage, the correct heated and cooled square footage. Sometimes we may have in there, because they don't go inside the homes, okay? So they may have in there that you have a finished basement when you actually do not have a finished basement. So, they can go through that with you. Now, here's my disclaimer. Most of the time it's the other way around. They have that your basement is not finished and it's actually been finished. But there could be a possibility where they have that you have a finished basement and it's not. So that does affect the values. If on your property tax card it has you having 4 bedrooms and you only have 3, or it has you having 2 bathrooms and you have 1, those types of information is important, and that goes into the appraised value. So they will go through that property record with the individual and make sure that information is accurate first and foremost. The other thing is if there are comparable sales, if there are sales data that you have in your neighborhood. There are over 600 neighborhoods that we have the county divided in, and we have taken sales from those neighborhoods over a period of time. So if there's information that you have or a recent appraisal or things of that nature, that's the type of information, that we need. Or if you have information about a piece of property that, where the property is not buildable, or maybe there's a power line easement that's there and you can't build a structure in it and it's not listed on something. And maybe they may not have a note of that. It may not be on the deed or on the plat or something like that. That's information that's important for the tax office to have and for you to make them aware of. So this is something that I know that the board's getting a lot of emails. This is something that you can send to those individuals that has links embedded in the letter that they can click on and get more information. Always feel free to call the tax office, and that's one thing that I do want to say. They are there to help. They certainly are there to talk about this with anybody that has concerns. If you feel that if you have information, you feel that the value is not correct, to please file an appeal. That's the way the process works, and that's what you should do if you feel like it is incorrect. But this is just information that I've tried to provide for the board and also for the citizens, and we talked about it at the 5 o'clock to put this on the website as well. So I'll work on getting that on the website tomorrow so people can have this information as well.
Okay, that was a lot of great information on that, so that would be a point of reference too.
Absolutely.
All right, any additional unfinished business?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So that takes us to the public comment period, which I'm assuming the majority of you came here not because you just wanted to watch us in action. So, all right, moving along to the public comment period. The board conducts a public comment period at its second regular meeting of the month. The purpose of the public comment period is to allow citizens to speak on matters related to county government. Each speaker that has signed up is allotted 3 minutes, and you'll see the timers, and will be called to the podium by the chair in order that names appear or as referenced on the sign-in sheet. So when you come to the podium, please state your name and address before beginning your comments. Comments are directed to the board as a whole. Responses by the board are at their discretion, but the public comment period is not intended to be a question and answer session, but rather a time for the board to hear from the public and take action, or I'm sorry, to take such matters revised under advisement. So now citizens will be expected to be civil in their language and presentation, not engage in slander or name calling. Citizens should not discuss any matters which are considered closed session matters, including but not limited to matters regarding personnel, matters which are made confidential by law. Speakers who have prepared written comments and remarks are welcome to have their supporting documents, and encourage to leave those comments or documents with our clerk, Amy Anderson. Thank you on that one. And I will also add that as you come up, you said state name and address, but if you feel that someone else has stated your comments and you no longer wish to speak, you are not obligated. You can just tell me you decline at that time. And with that, I'm going to move to the list, and I will do my best not to mess up any pronunciations, but please feel free to tell me on that one. Yes, and wait to start the timer until after name and address. Got it. Okay. Perfect. So with that, Jack Binion, you're up first. And if you'll please come to the podium, state your name and address. And you know you're familiar with the 3 minutes as well.
And I live at 263 Beaton Path in Mooresville. Speaking again for the Save Our Neighborhoods, the Brindlewood Group, the Woodland Hills Groups, the Mallard Head Group, and the Loblawi Group. And yes, we've grown. First, I'd like to thank you all for your help in finding a solution to the short-term rental issues. We met with Vicki Sawyer in September of 2022, and at that time, the Sheriff's Department had identified 22 problem houses. From the video of your January meeting, it was stated there are now 75 problem houses identified. Not good in an off-season. We feel it will only get worse come summer. We do realize that not all vacation rentals are having these issues. We feel there are many positives that came out of your January meeting, and also would like to offer our help in any way we can to help find the solutions for those bumps in the roads that came up as a concern. I recently found there are 13+ companies renting vacation houses in Mooresville, with over 476 on the lake in Mooresville alone. There are other companies targeting our area. One such company has over 2,700 rentals in North Carolina, but has a very bad reputation. That's definitely not the type of company we want bringing renters to our homes. Out of the 29 vacation houses that our group looked at, have been 15 with ongoing issues. Out of those 15, 11 are managed by the same management group, or 73%. We found that the same company has started a buying group to purchase more such houses. Also, out of those 15, 9 were owned by LLCs, or 60%. And with the privately owned, many of those people are from out of state. Out of the total 29 homes, 13 were managed by that same above management company, or 45%, with 15 of the 29 owned of LLCs, or 52%. So many of the southeastern states have some sort of short-term rental regulations in place. Their House Bill 8 with the transient room tax, and they're also allowing their cities or municipalities to regulate further. Tennessee, the Public Chapter 972 or the Short-Term Rental Unit Act. South Carolina, Vacation Rental Lodging Tax. West Virginia, TSD 316. Georgia, Sales Tax on Hotel and Motel Tax. Florida, you must obtain a license. Virginia, S15.2-983. They must register annually. Many states regard zoning ordinances by the municipality to define. Many states have partnered with Airbnb and VRBO to collect and remit taxes. So far, North Carolina is the only state we found in the southeast that does not regulate these houses as a business. But North Carolina regulates.
Mr. Binion, I'm sorry, your time is
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry.
But I do believe you have a lot of information that you can share with us by email as well, and you have in the past. And you know, and we've got it right here. So thank you so
Thanks.
much for taking time to be here. Ernie Sackett is next.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ernie Sackett. I live in Mooresville at 123 Asbury Circle. We appreciate your recognition of and the willingness to work together on short-term rental issues. And as was pointed out earlier, the next step in this process is to look for ways to regulate STRs. We examined what 12 North Carolina cities are doing for STR regulation. These cities are reported to be the best rental markets for Airbnbs in North Carolina. Cities in this group are using the following methods for regulation. Zoning requirements, Charlotte, Raleigh, Asheville, Lake Lure. Owner occupancy requirements, Asheville and Greensboro. Require permits with zoning restrictions, Raleigh, Lake Lure. Limit number of guests, Greensboro, Asheville, Lake Lure, Brevard. Limited parking, Lake Lure and Brevard. Our experiences with bed and breakfasts in our neighborhoods have been good. Requiring a resident manager owner and limiting the number of bedrooms has helped make them good neighbors. With all this information, I would like to offer an option for regulation of STRs for your consideration. Taking working practices from the 12 North Carolina cities and keeping all stakeholders in mind, we put together an example of a regulation plan. This could be used to solve the problems experienced with short-term rentals in the residential neighborhoods of our county. A new permitted use in residential zones would be defined and implemented. The description would be short-term rentals of 30 days or less. The requirements, number 1, the owner must be a permanent resident of the home. Number 2, number of guests allowed would be 2 people to a bedroom based on the septic permit of the home. Current non-owner occupied STR homes would be given a grace period to implement the permitted use. During the grace period, the STRs would be required to assign a resident manager to be present during rentals instead of a permanent owner. The grace period would end on the sale of the home. Therefore, requirements during the grace period for non-owner occupied homes would be, Number one, a resident manager present during rentals. Number two, number of guests allowed would be 2 people to a bedroom based on the septic permit. Stakeholder benefits and enforcement of this proposal are the next topics to be discussed. However, I'm afraid I've run out of time. Thank you for listening.
Next, we have Barney Roward? No, I'm sorry? Roward, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your service to our community. My name is Barney Rowart, and I live at 115 Cullen Place in Mooresville. I'm a retired Los Angeles County Fire Department Battalion Chief. Some of my working assignments included firefighter, EMT, paramedic, captain, and fire prevention inspector. My wife is also a retired Los Angeles County registered nurse. We spent our careers as public servants and county employees in very busy areas. Since retirement, we have made our home here in Iredell County for the past 10 years. We love living here and have deep roots in this community. We continue to serve in various organizations as well as our church family. Unfortunately, the property next to us has become a short-term vacation rental. For the past 3 to 4 years, we have endured loud parties, erratic and unsafe behavior, even dangerous activities including guns and drugs. We live in an area zoned as residential, not for businesses. The house is being operated, advertised as a business with no permanent resident. I'd like to draw your attention to some of the safety concerns regarding short-term rentals. The house next door to us was built as a single-family residence with a permitted septic system for 4 bedrooms or 8 occupants. It's openly advertised and routinely rented for groups to 16 or 20. As I stated, the septic permit is for 8. Now, a lot has been said about health concerns about an overflowing septic system and party houses. But a septic permit is set to set the limit of number of people living there. This is a safety concern. In the event of a fire, people need to get out quickly out of approved exits. Overcrowding any structure, including a residence, jeopardizes the occupant's safety. Simply put, I've seen it, I've dealt with it. People die if they can't get out of the building. In the event of such a crisis, I would think Iredell County would share in the liability for allowing short-term rentals to operate in this unsafe and overcrowded manner. Overcrowding also causes blocked roads with vehicles as well. Blocked roads make it impossible for emergency vehicles to respond for EMS or fire emergencies in homes around it as a short-term rental. It is for these reasons, at the very least, short-term rentals should be limited to septic permit for overnight stay. Regular safety inspections should also be considered to check for operating smoke detectors, extinguishers, and exiting requirements. We appreciate your willingness to hear from us and to work towards solutions. Here's a couple of things that we would like to ask for. We would like to have a representative from our group assigned on the working group that you've established. We'd also like to have representatives from all county departments concerned, including planning, code enforcement, and a fire marshal as well. Thank you for your consideration. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have, is it Jim Ray?
Hello, my name is Jim Ray. I live at 196 Beaten Path Road in Mooresville. We are here not to try and stop or shut down short-term rentals, but instead help write regulations that balance the rights of the short-term rental homeowners and those with the interest of neighbors and the community, the local community alike. We currently regulate hotels, bed and breakfasts, and rooming houses, but not short-term rentals, which are all basically the same, in that they all rent rooms for short periods of time. Because of no regulations, the county is losing out on revenue due to the short-term rentals not paying an occupancy or hospitality or a vacation rental tax. When modifications are made to short-term rentals to increase the number of rooms available to rent, we have found that most do not apply for building permits. This results in lost revenue. We also believe that most do not report these changes on their tax records to reflect the increased appraised value. Again, a lost revenue. Unregulated short-term rentals are taking business away from hotels who pay all the required local fees and taxes, which most short-term rentals do not pay. If short-term rentals were regulated like hotels, B&Bs, and rooming houses, we would be able to control the following: maximum occupancy, thereby addressing the overcapacity issues; wastewater requirements, which will help control septic tank issues; health inspection guidelines, which address the health and safety concerns; parking limitations, helping avoid illegal and unsafe parking on the streets; annual inspections to ensure ongoing safety and permitted regulations are being met; annual permits to ensure that all the short-term rentals are compliant with all current regulations. Short-term rentals do not have that do not have a resident occupant are our biggest problem and are the highest percentage to appear on the troubled property list. Currently, there is no way to contact an individual to deal with an issue. We have to deal through the police department. Today, we're able to resolve most issues with short-term rentals which do have a resident occupant with no police involvement. Let's try and change all this by recognizing, regulating, and enforcing short-term rentals as we do other businesses which offer rooms for rent for short periods of time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Ray.
All right. Moving down the list, Ava Dantaran, did I get anywhere close? Okay, good. If you'll please state your name and address when you get to the podium.
My name is Ava Dandaran. I live at 140 Chollywood Drive. Today I'm here because I believe that environmental issues should be more adequately addressed within the county. On January 12th and 19th, I hosted environmental justice meetings along with an organization called Appalachian Voices, meant for residents to talk about their environmental concerns within the county. The meeting on the 19th was attended by a number of Mooresville residents, and the overwhelming issue was that we wanted to be addressed by the local government was about coal ash. For the past few years, I've heard about girls around my age getting thyroid cancer. It's concerning and we can't just dismiss it as a fluke or coincidental. I don't want myself or another person becoming a statistic. We've seen statements that thyroid cancer cases are not linked to coal ash, and we've seen statements that we should not worry about coal ash sites around the county. But there must be something causing these cancer cases, and there must be a way for us and our government to do something about it. Those who came to the meeting that I held in Mooresville expressed concerns over the last town meeting that addressed coal ash being held in 2020. It's 2023, people are still getting cancer. People are still concerned about coal ash being used in construction and structural fills around the county. We need the county and the town to hold meetings in order to not keep residents in the dark. As residents, we ask that there be more access to data in terms of where this coal ash is, because a lot of it, we're not exactly sure where it is. Only Duke Energy really knows that. We ask that groundwater testing be more widely accessible and affordable. And we also ask that we have more opportunity to get county and townwide feedback. I recommend that the county commit to the idea of environmental justice. In 2021, Mecklenburg County passed their environmental leadership policy and action plan. This commits the county to drafting an actual action plan about how to solve environmental issues around the county. And they started by holding a series of community meetings for residents to talk about issues that directly affected them. I believe that Iredell County can take the same course of action to commit to combating environmental issues all around the county. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Lori Fees.
Thank you for having me. My name is Lori Fees. I live at 168 Back Creek Lane, Statesville. This is my very first time doing anything like this, but I know if you don't speak up, you can't complain. I want to say that Amy Anderson is fabulous. I've talked to her a couple times. Beth, I did all my research on the taxes and the, where they are and what we're doing and where we fall in Iredale, and I totally understand. I'm here to talk about the tax rate of 0.573 and maybe the consideration of lowering that or over the next 4 years doing some sort of sliding scale. Right now, you've got people that are suffering terribly because inflation is at an all-time high. It costs more to buy a used car. Heaven help you if you're trying to buy a new car. Wages are not going up, so that the amount of what you're saying, if we would have done something in 2021 or 2022, my taxes go up every year. I don't know why they go up a couple $100 every year, but I pay them over a 5 installment period. So maybe there's a way to let us know in June so that we can spread out those payments. I totally agree with everything that you said. Well done. It's spot on. I don't need my property reassessed. I need some help with the 0.53. I'm going from 324,000 to 487,000. That's 163,000 plus increase. So I think if we figure something out here where we can go down on the tax rate, I mean, I voted for the school bond. I'm all excited about new growth, but I'm not in a position where my income is making strides with what we're paying every day. Eggs are costing $4 a dozen. So when you take and you look at the very basics, your people here in Iredell County are your bread and butter, good people. We're not living high on the hog. So I do feel that there's some consideration here for where we're at right now. You're a very important economist, Russell Price, with Fidelity. He says prices aren't going to go down. They're going to moderate across the way, but we aren't going to see anything drop. So for us to go ahead and fork over, another $1,000 to $1,200, it's a big chunk. But you did a great job. I found everything that you said. I do appreciate where I live. I love Iredell County. I've got great neighbors, and I don't want to move anyplace else, and I don't plan on for the next 20-some years, God willing. I'm going to be there till I die. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Pletcher.
Got something going here now, so. I'm Cheryl Pletcher. I live at 107 Foxtail Drive, and I thank you for the opportunity. I'm here to speak on the Sanctuary for Life. The U.S. Constitution and the North Carolina Constitution, both of them give us the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The North Carolina Constitution even adds the right of enjoyment of the fruits of our labor. An evil, a darkness, has infiltrated our nation and the world. Evil says that human life is not valuable, that it's disposable. Evil says that morality can be broken down if pornography and obscenity are promoted. Evil says marriage can be broken down by discrediting the Bible, encouraging promiscuity, and making divorce easy. Evil says that parents are a negative influence over children or even terrorists. That was our Department of Justice and FBI. Well, those statements are from the Communist Manifesto that was read into the congressional record in 1963. The plan to bring evil into our nation is not a secret, but it's a plan that is now in full view. If good people fail to stand up against wrong or evil, we are actually giving our consent for the evil to continue. Silence means agreement. So we, the people here tonight, do not consent to giving away any of our freedoms to the tyranny of legislators in Raleigh and Washington, D.C. We recognize an evil plan being played out while we were not paying attention. But we are awake now. Our proclamation or resolution for life in Iredell County is a ripple. It will be a small message to Raleigh and every other county in North Carolina that is watching. And many ripples can become a wave of energy that changes history. Our founders showed us how to stand strong as we the people. Let us use this moment to work together with citizens, churches, social agencies, and government to support the God-given right to life, that we may live life more abundantly and free. Thank you. And can I have my supporters of life stand up? Thank you.
Next, we have Jeff, and you're going to have to help me with your last name. Jeff from Union Chapel Drive. Okay, Jeff, is your last name Ehrlich? All right, thank you. Jeff, if you'll. So if you'll state your name and address once you reach the podium, thank you.
First, I want to start by having a little shout out, as they say, to Mr. Brown for giving my wife his phone number, or being foolish enough to do that. But the phone call was so long and there was so much laughing that I started to become concerned. But they were having a great time, so thank you. My main point here, which won't take long, has to do with the mill rate, which the other person was referring to, but maybe from a little different angle. Just for pure mathematics, if we say on average, say pick a round number, 50%, and the mill rate doesn't change, the assessed values are up 50%, right or wrong, that's a 50% increase in revenue to the county. What is going to be done with that money if the mill rate is not lowered? That is a windfall of a tremendous amount. Some people can pay it, many can't. But the real question is, what is going to happen to that money? That's the main thing. That's the first thing that popped in there. That is a tremendous windfall. And I think there needs to be a great hesitancy just to find ways to spend it, because that's pretty easy. So that's my main point, I guess. Well, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, George. Oh. It starts with an R. Can you decline? You're good? Okay. All right, thank you. Tom Snyder, you're up next.
Good evening, Tom Snyder, 237 Sundance Circle in Statesville. I'm here to talk to you tonight about growth and, of course, taxes. Let's talk about the growth first. How do we allow the zoning to be rezoned for Horton Homes and True Homes to come in and put these houses in the way they're throwing them up? They're cookie-cutter properties stacked one right after the other. If you live in the middle house, you can knock on the window to ask your neighbor next door for a cup of milk. It's ridiculous. Why are we rezoning these properties? These neighborhoods around them are on half-acre and acre lots. And then you come up to this and you see, bam, 1, 2, 3, 4, one right after the other, right on top of each other. Do you think they care? They come in from out of town. They build all these houses. They make all the money. They don't give us anything for infrastructure, nothing for schools. And the cities are running in and annexing them in to give them sewer and water. And they just run right out of town when they're done. They make their boatloads of cash and leave the rest to us, the taxpayer. You know, I think the whole process of zoning needs to be looked at because there's definitely a problem there. Now, as far as the taxes go, I'm still trying to figure out how I ended up with a 72% increase in value. When my house is valued at almost $300,000 and a house down the block from me that's 4 bedrooms, 3,200 square feet, which is much larger than my 1,900 square foot house on the same size property, just sold for $35,000 less what they're saying my house is worth. I don't, the value, the way the revaluation was done, I don't think it was fair. I did some research, started looking at some stuff. Some people got a 0 increase on value. How does a piece of property that appraised for something in 2019 in this 2022 still be worth the same, that the value didn't go up and they got a 0 increase in valuation? Some people even got a decrease. I found a couple of decreases. How does a value go down? The one property that I found the decrease, I rode past it. It's still the same thing that the public records is showing with what the structure is. How did that happen? It's mind-boggling to me, but I don't know, maybe the assessor can answer that question for me. This is a story that was on Google News. It was in the Charlotte Record Landmark. It was picked up. It was national. And it says in it about taxes and everything, and it brings out the county. It's highlighted us for our taxes. And it says in it the appeal process, but it also says that the commissioners have the right to adjust the tax rate. Now, I know some people have gone publicly on TV, radio shows at this podium and said the commissioners don't adjust the tax rate. Here it is in black and white, they do. So I'm just asking you to consider that before you just wallop everybody with a big increase. Thank you.
Angela Matthews.
Good evening, Angela Matthews, 210 Southview Drive. Tonight I'm here to talk about property taxes. At least one person here tonight stood before a group of residents at a church in Barium Springs just after another major event occurred here in our county, the vote to pay for the removal of the Confederate statue. And standing in front of those folks, it was promised, and I quote, "I will never ever vote to increase your taxes." Yet here we stand on the cusp of that increase ready to take place. The biggest proposed tax increase in Iredell County history. The majority of people who live in Iredell County don't have $1 million in the bank. Most live month to month or week to week. Maybe for a select few, a $700 to a $1,200 increase in property taxes is no big deal. But for many of my clients who live on a fixed income, the average being $2,800 for a household of 2 per month, means choosing between keeping their home or putting food on the table. No one who has worked for 50 years or more should ever have to make that choice. Republicans hold the majority in Iredell County. And with that being said, the Republican Party believes that Americans are already overtaxed. This practice is threatening to our financial prosperity and the growth of a healthy economy. Increasing taxes is not the answer. Spending must be curbed, and we must reject the use of taxation to redistribute income which funds unnecessary or ineffective programs. Inflation has already increased the cost of many taxable items. The county will already see an increase in funding from the increase in sales tax dollars on these items. Why would we elect to perform a countywide reappraisal at the peak of an imaginary housing bubble fueled by poor leadership and reckless spending? We could have elected to pause and perform the reval during 2024 with the hopes that the market would level out, like Wilkes and Carteret counties did. The letter from the Department of Revenue states that the deadline is January the 1st of 2025. So tonight, I would ask that you decrease the property tax rate to offset the revaluation. We will need at least 1 penny and a quarter of another penny to offset a 30% increase in property value assessed. So I'm asking you tonight to consider that at least 1 penny and a quarter, and that's at the 30% increase. Some folks out here tonight and people that I've talked to got 100% increase. Thank you.
That are all the names that I have on the list. I will inquire if there's anyone else who would wish to speak. Okay. Well, that concludes our public comment section. I'll take us down for the next item as commissioner comments and updates. If anyone would like to share, we have updates. Do anything?
I'll just go down the list. The Airbnb situation, we're working on it. We're looking at the information provided us, our lawyer's working on it to see what we can do within our control from the zoning perspective. Without legislation, it'll be limited, but we're working in both categories there. So we're working towards that. The Sanctuary for Life County issue, the resolution, the lawyer's working on that. So thank you for showing up. We are pro-life and we're working to get to that situation. As far as the reval, I just want to reiterate that, it started in the 90s to do every 4 years. And at that forecast, we have no idea what the economy is going to do. We hear you. We understand, the cost of living is up and we feel the pain and we're going to look at every situation once we get all of our information. I think that's the objective thing to do is we don't have all the information in yet. So if you, as Beth said, if you disagree, there's an informal appeal process and you can please go through that. There may be things that our assessors did not know that are vital to assessing your value. And at the end of the day, the board and staff will look at doing what we can to mitigate those negative impacts. As I stated in our retreat we had Friday, we have growing county, growing pains. We have a lot of needs for our schools, our 26 county departments. We help fund 19 volunteer fire departments, emergency services, all those things. But we understand the situation with the recession and the economy with fixed incomes, and your incomes are not increasing to the levels that we are. But keep in mind, we don't make up the market value. That's done in your by neighborhood, as Beth mentioned, over 600 neighborhoods. So I think we appreciate all the calls and the information, and I know it's frustrating, but we've tried to get information out from staff that's been helpful, I think, to most people I've talked to, as far as the calculators and the process of why it takes place. I know Wilkes County, for one, delayed their situation, not because of the economy, but because their assessor did not budget and plan and have staff to do their reval. And so we hear you and we're looking into it. We're a conservative county and there's a lot of needs and things that we're going to have to look at. So you've got a conservative board that you've trusted to make decisions on your behalf. And we are not in control of the values and the market rates, but we are in control of the tax rate. So we can't make that determination or promises at this point till we have all the information. That wouldn't be helpful. But thank you for your comments. And I'm the only one on this board that's been through a reval, and I understand where you're coming from. So I know everybody here with me, along with staff, understand your frustrations and your concerns. So we will keep all that in mind when we make final decisions. That's all I have.
Any other updates this way? All right. Well, I do. And on a lighter note, let me make sure that everyone can hear me on this one.
I'm guessing this is getting ready to be, if you live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword.
You could say that.
Okay.
Okay. So fortunately, we have a larger crowd here, and I'm sure you all know that Commissioner Stroud had a birthday. And that's why you all came, right? All right. Okay. So that birthday was yesterday, correct?
Yesterday.
So I've got some information.
Awesome.
All right, you ready?
Absolutely.
And just FYI, Commissioner Stroud started this with Commissioner Brown, and HALP was a recipient of it. It's not my birthday yet, and so we got months and months yet.
It will be. It will be.
So with that being said, Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
There are 21,550 days since you were born. Wait, 21,551 days since you were born. If a dog named Charlie, a Mastiff breed, was born on the same date as you, then it would be 315 dog years old today. According to the Birthday Ninja, your strong characteristic traits are, and actually it's kind of fit you, justice, nurturing, responsibility. Okay.
I accept all of those proudly.
You possess great compassion and seek to be of service to others. I didn't make this up. This was on Ninja. And just a fact that came with this, I did not pull the history pieces because I could not outdo your history quote for help. But however, John Glenn Jr., the oldest of 7 astronauts selected by NASA for Project Mercury spaceflight training, and later U.S. Senator, became on this day in 1962, meaning yesterday, the first American to orbit the Earth, doing so 3 times. So there. And with that being said, tradition states that on birthdays you sing happy birthday. So if you all please join in and we'll sing happy birthday to Commissioner Stroud. Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Brad, Commissioner Stroud. Happy birthday to you. Well done. Happy birthday.
I will have to up my research when it gets closer to someone's birthday.
Not necessary. Not necessary at all. My pleasure to do that. And I have to laugh. We have sections on our agenda that says new business. However, not so new in your case, but not so old either.
It is my last year in the 50s, so.
How quickly it does fly. So happy birthday on that one as well. So now I'm going to turn it back down to County Manager's report, please.
Gosh, I have to follow that.
You do, indeed. It was time to lighten the mood just a moment.
There you go. Just a reminder that we will have a joint meeting with the town of Mooresville on Tuesday, February the 28th at 12:30, and this will be at the Charles Mack Center. Our clerk to the board, Ms. Anderson, has the agendas for you, and then we will continue to get you information, supplemental information that goes with the items on the agenda when we receive it. On the bench before you, we did provide you a list of the 17 counties in North Carolina that have a lower 2022 tax rate than Iredell County. I referenced that earlier, but we did provide you a list of those counties. I do want to point out that if you'll look at that list, a lot of those counties are actually resort counties that have a lower tax rate. And then finally, just a congratulations to our library for receiving the Community Impact Award from the Statesville Chamber of Commerce. It's so nice to have one of your departments that spends a lot of time trying to provide services to our community and do things to touch the lives of individuals in our community, being recognized for that. And they did receive recognition for that, and I'm very proud of them for their efforts.
And we had Commissioner Stroud there for that as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for that one.
He was the proud taker of a selfie with all the staff, so.
I just learned how to do it.
For your birthday.
It's my birthday.
Okay. All right. Anything else in your report?
No, ma'am, that's all.
All right. So we did have a closed session this evening, attorney-client and economic development, with one item to report out.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the county manager or the chair of the Board of Commissioners to execute a settlement agreement with Hickory Construction Company.
All right. Thank you. We have that in the form of a motion. Do we need to vote on that one, Valdez? It was just.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to say we're good with that one. So all in favor for Commissioner Brown's motion? Aye.
No.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. All right. We have 4-1. Thank you very much on that. And that takes us to the end, and we have a motion for an adjournment.
We got one question.
I'm sorry.
Just want to make sure everybody realizes that February the 30th is National Men's Day, so all y'all women need to remember that. Now I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
All in favor? All right, any opposed to adjourning? All right, motion carries. We are adjourned.